We've all been there, setting a goal with excitement, feeling the rush of ambition, and believing that with hard work and determination, success is inevitable. But then, reality hits. You put in the effort, you push yourself, and yet the results don't match your expectations. Instead of victory, you're met with frustration, anger, and disappointment. It feels like all your hard work was for nothing. You start questioning yourself. Was I not good enough? Did I make a mistake? Why does success seem so easy for others, but so hard for me? It's a painful feeling, one that cuts deep. When you invest your time, energy, and emotions into something, only to see it slip through your fingers, it's natural to feel angry. Maybe you lash out, blame yourself, or even start resenting others who seem to have it all figured out. The disappointment weighs heavy, making you doubt your abilities and eroding your confidence. You wonder if it's even worth trying again. But what if I told you that this moment, this raw, emotional frustration holds incredible power? What if your anger wasn't a sign of failure, but a signal that you care deeply about your dreams? What if, instead of letting it break you, you could use it to fuel something greater? The truth is, setbacks are not the end of your journey. They're part of it. Every successful person has faced failure, disappointment, and moments of self-doubt. The difference? They learned how to turn their anger into a tool for growth. So instead of letting frustration consume you, let's take a different approach. Let's understand where these emotions come from, learn how to manage them, and most importantly, discover how to transform anger into motivation. Now, let's embark on this journey together. Why do we feel angry when we fail? Anger is a natural response to disappointment. When we don't achieve something we deeply desire, our brains react as if we've been wrong. It's almost like an internal alarm system going off, telling us that something isn't right. That feeling of injustice, whether real or perceived, triggers frustration. But here's the thing, anger isn't just destructive force. It's also an indicator of how much we care. If you feel angry and frustrated about not reaching a goal, it means that goal truly matters to you. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel anything at all. That's the first sign that this anger can actually be used as a tool for transformation, turning anger into fuel. The problem isn't the anger itself, it's how we respond to it. Most people fall into one of two traps. They let anger consume them. They dwell on the failure, replaying it over and over in their minds, allowing frustration to turn into self-doubt and even self-sabotage. They suppress it. Instead of addressing the feeling, they bottle it up, pretending it doesn't exist only for it to explode later in unhealthy ways. Neither approach leads to growth. But there's a third way away that successful people use. They recognize their anger, channel it, and convert it into motivation. The secret successful people know. Think about some of the most successful individuals in history. Almost all of them have faced devastating failures at some point. The difference? They used their frustration as a trigger for action rather than defeat. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Instead of giving up, he used that anger and disappointment to push himself to practice harder, eventually becoming one of the greatest players of all time. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. Instead of accepting that judgment, she turned it into fuel to prove her critics wrong, building a media empire. Elon Musk faced multiple failures with SpaceX and Tesla. But instead of seeing failure as a sign to stop, he used it as feedback, refining his approach until he succeeded. These people didn't avoid anger or disappointment. They embraced them as signals for growth and improvement. How can you apply this to your life? The next time you feel frustrated about missing a goal, ask yourself, what is this anger trying to tell me? How can I use this energy to take action instead of dwelling on failure? What adjustments can I make to ensure I come back stronger? Your anger is not your enemy, it's your fuel. If you harness it correctly, it will push you to be smarter, stronger, and more resilient than ever before. Don't let disappointment define you. Let it drive you. Now, are you ready to unlock the hidden power behind your frustration? Keep watching, because in the next part, we'll explore exactly how you can take this raw energy and transform it into success. Anger is a natural response to disappointment. When we don't achieve something we deeply desire, our brains react as if we've been wronged. It's almost like an internal alarm system going off, telling us that something isn't right. That feeling of injustice, whether real or perceived, triggers frustration. But here's the thing, anger isn't just a destructive force. It's also an indicator of how much we care. If you feel angry and frustrated about not reaching a goal, it means that goal truly matters to you. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel anything at all. That's the first sign that this anger can actually be used as a tool for transformation, turning anger into fuel. The problem isn't the anger itself, it's how we respond to it. Most people fall into one of two traps. They let anger consume them. They dwell on the failure, replaying it over and over in their minds, allowing frustration to turn into self-doubt and even self-sabotage. They suppress it. Instead of addressing the feeling, they bottle it up, pretending it doesn't exist only for it to explode later in unhealthy ways. Neither approach leads to growth. But there's a third way, a way that successful people use. They recognize their anger, channel it, and convert it into motivation. The secret successful people know. Think about some of the most successful individuals in history. Almost all of them have faced devastating failures at some point. The difference? They use their frustration as a trigger for action rather than defeat. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Instead of giving up, he used that anger and disappointment to push himself to practice harder, eventually becoming one of the greatest players of all time. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. Instead of accepting that judgment, she turned it into fuel to prove her critics wrong, building a media empire. Elon Musk faced multiple failures with SpaceX and Tesla. But instead of seeing failure as a sign to stop, he used it as feedback, refining his approach until he succeeded. These people didn't avoid anger or disappointment. They embraced them as signals for growth and improvement. How can you apply this to your life? The next time you feel frustrated about missing a goal, ask yourself, what is this anger trying to tell me? How can I use this energy to take action instead of dwelling on failure? What adjustments can I make to ensure I come back stronger? Your anger is not your enemy. It's your fuel. If you harness it correctly, it will push you to be smarter, stronger, and more resilient than ever before. Don't let disappointment define you. Let it drive you. Now, are you ready to unlock the hidden power behind your frustration? Keep watching, because in the next part, we'll explore exactly how you can take this raw energy and transform it into success. Mastering your emotions, how to control and redirect anger for growth. Now that we understand where anger and frustration come from, the real challenge is learning how to control and redirect those emotions in a way that benefits us. It's not about suppressing anger or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about transforming it into a driving force that propels you forward rather than holds you back. The dangers of uncontrolled anger. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It can push us to take action, but when left unchecked, it can also destroy our confidence, relationships, and progress. If you've ever let frustration build up inside, you know how easy it is for it to spill over into other areas of your life. You lash out at the wrong people. Instead of addressing the root cause, you end up venting your frustration on friends, family, or colleagues, people who aren't responsible for your disappointment. You become stuck in a negative cycle. You replay the failure in your mind, overanalyzing what went wrong and allowing it to fuel self-doubt rather than action. You let it define you. Instead of seeing failure as a temporary setback, you start to believe it's who you are. I always mess up. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. This is why learning how to control anger is so important. If you don't, it will control you. Reframing your perspective on failure. One of the biggest mindset shifts you can make is changing the way you view failure. Instead of seeing it as proof that you're not capable, look at it as a necessary part of success. Every mistake, every setback, and every disappointment is feedback. Successful people don't avoid failure, they embrace it. They use it as a learning experience, a stepping stone to improvement. Here's how you can start doing the same. Separate emotions from logic. When emotions are high, logic is low. Before making any big decisions, take a step back. Allow yourself to feel the frustration, but don't act on it immediately. Ask better questions. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" The way you frame your thoughts will determine your ability to bounce back. Recognize that setbacks are temporary. Just because you failed once doesn't mean you'll always fail. The only true failure is giving up. Practical steps to control and redirect anger. If you find yourself struggling with anger and frustration when things don't go your way, try these strategies to take control of your emotions and use them productively. Pause before reacting. Instead of immediately responding to failure with negativity, give yourself a moment to breathe. Take a walk, meditate, or write down your thoughts before making any decisions. Channel anger into action. Use frustration as energy to improve your skills, adjust your strategy, or work harder. If something didn't work, figure out why and make the necessary changes. Engage in physical activity. Exercise is one of the best ways to release pent-up frustration. Whether it's running, weightlifting, or even just a brisk walk, movement helps clear your mind. Talk to someone who can provide perspective. Sometimes, we're too emotionally involved in a situation to see it clearly. Talking to a mentor, coach, or trusted friend can help you gain a new perspective. Set new, realistic goals. If your failure came from setting an unrealistic goal, break it down into smaller, more achievable steps that keep you motivated instead of overwhelmed. Your anger is a gift. Use it wisely. Anger doesn't have to be destructive. If you learn how to control it, understand it, and channel it into growth, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for success. The difference between people who let failure define them and those who use it as fuel is simple: mindset and action. The next time you feel angry about not reaching a goal, remember, this is energy waiting to be used. You can let it hold you back, or you can redirect it to push yourself further than ever before. Now, let's take this a step further. In the next section, we'll explore how to create a system that turns setbacks into opportunities for growth and long-term success. Turning setbacks into a blueprint for growth. By now, you understand that anger and frustration are not the enemies, they are signals. They reveal what matters most to you, what you're passionate about, and what you deeply want to achieve. But awareness alone isn't enough. The real question is, what do you do next? Too often, people let setbacks define them. They dwell on failure, allowing negative emotions to take control, which eventually leads to inaction. But the most successful people take a different path. They create a system that turns failure into an opportunity for growth. And the good news? You can do the same. Step 1. Reframe your setback as a lesson, not a loss. The biggest mistake people make when facing failure is seeing it as proof that they aren't good enough. They take one misstep and label themselves as incapable, forgetting that every major success story is built on failures. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Walt Disney was fired from his first newspaper job because he lacked imagination. Steve Jobs was removed from his own company before making a legendary comeback. What do all of these people have in common? They refused to let failure define them. Instead, they analyzed their setbacks, extracted the lessons, and made adjustments that set them up for success. The next time you experience disappointment, ask yourself, what did this experience teach me? What could I have done differently? How can I improve my approach moving forward? By shifting your mindset from defeat to learning, you take back control. You stop being a victim of failure and start using it as a stepping stone toward growth. Step 2. Build a resilient action plan. After you've extracted the lessons from your setback, it's time to take action. Growth doesn't happen by simply thinking about what went wrong. It happens when you use that knowledge to make tangible changes. Here's how to create an action plan that turns setbacks into progress. Adjust your goals without lowering your standards. If your goal was too ambitious, break it down into smaller, achievable steps that build momentum. If external factors were the issue, find ways to adapt rather than giving up completely. Strengthen your weaknesses. Identify the skill gaps or mistakes that contributed to your setback and create a plan to improve them. If you struggled with consistency, create a structured routine. If a lack of knowledge held you back, invest in learning. Create an accountability system. Share your revised goals with a mentor, friend, or community that can help hold you accountable. Track your progress and celebrate small wins to stay motivated. Develop emotional mastery. Learn to control your emotional response to failure. Meditation, journaling, and therapy can help develop self-awareness and prevent setbacks from becoming paralyzing. Step 3. Cultivate a long-term growth mindset. Building resilience is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process. The key is to train your mind to embrace challenges instead of avoiding them. Instead of fearing failure, welcome it as part of the process. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, treat them as tests of commitment. Instead of measuring success by perfection, measure it by progress. People who achieve great things in life are not those who never fail. They are the ones who fail, learn, and keep going. The next time you feel the sting of disappointment, remind yourself, this is not the end. This is simply a lesson on the path to success. Final thoughts. You are in control. At the end of the day, setbacks will happen. Goals will sometimes feel out of reach. But the choice of how you respond, that's entirely up to you. You can let frustration control you, or you can control it. You can let failure define you, or you can use it to refine yourself. The difference between people who achieve greatness and those who don't is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It's the ability to turn failures into opportunities. Now, take a moment to reflect. What setback are you currently facing? And more importantly, how will you use it to fuel your next breakthrough? Sustaining growth, how to keep moving forward after failure. At this point, you've learned how to process anger, extract lessons from setbacks, and build a system to turn failures into stepping stones. But there's one more crucial piece to the puzzle sustaining growth. It's one thing to bounce back from a failure. It's another to consistently push forward, even when new obstacles arise. The truth is, success is not about having one breakthrough moment. It's about developing habits, mindset, and resilience that keep you moving forward no matter how many times you fall. So, how do you make sure your progress isn't just temporary? Step 1. Shift your identity from a goal setter to a growth-driven person. One of the biggest mistakes people make is tying their entire self-worth to whether or not they achieve a specific goal. When they succeed, they feel on top of the world. But when they fail, they feel completely lost. This roller coaster of emotions is exhausting and unsustainable. Instead, shift your focus from chasing specific goals to becoming the kind of person who constantly grows and adapts. Goals are great for direction, but identity is what sustains long-term success. Ask yourself, am I only motivated by results, or am I committed to lifelong improvement? Do I see challenges as obstacles or as opportunities to strengthen my skills? Am I defining success only by external achievements, or by how much I've grown as a person? When you focus on becoming someone who is always learning, improving, and taking action, you will naturally achieve more than if you were only chasing short-term goals. Step 2. Build systems, not just motivation. Motivation is temporary. Some days, you'll feel inspired and driven. Other days, you won't. Relying on motivation alone is a recipe for inconsistency. That's why successful people build systems that keep them moving forward, even when they don't feel like it. Here's how to create sustainable progress. Schedule your growth. Set aside time every week to reflect on what's working, what's not, and what adjustments you need to make. Treat self-improvement like any other priority. Put it on your calendar. Make it non-negotiable. Develop a feedback loop. Track your progress in a way that motivates you, whether it's journaling, using a habit tracker, or setting milestones. Surround yourself with people who push you to be better. Find a mentor, a coach, or a group that holds you accountable. Anticipate future setbacks. Instead of hoping things will always go smoothly, assume that challenges will come and prepare for them. Identify your biggest weaknesses and create strategies in advance to handle them. When you build systems, you no longer depend on feeling motivated to make progress. You have a structure that keeps you moving forward, even when things get tough. Step 3. Strengthen your mental resilience. Long-term success isn't just about skills and strategy. It's also about emotional resilience. You need to train your mind to handle stress, self-doubt, and unexpected obstacles without losing momentum. Ways to build mental toughness. Practice emotional control. Learn to recognize when emotions are taking over and develop strategies to stay calm and focused. Reframe negative thoughts. Instead of, I'm not good enough, think, I'm in the process of improving. Instead, I failed. Think, I learned something valuable. Embrace discomfort. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. The more you train yourself to handle pressure, the easier it becomes to push through challenges. Final thought, keep showing up. At the end of the day, the people who succeed are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail, learn, adjust, and keep showing up. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. So, ask yourself, are you willing to keep showing up even when things don't go your way? Because if you are, no failure, no setback, no disappointment can stop you. Your journey is just beginning. Keep going, keep learning, and most importantly, becoming the person who refuses to quit. Final thoughts, the power of persistence. If there's one thing to take away from this journey, it's this: setbacks are not the end of your story. The frustration, the anger, the disappointment you feel when things don't go as planned are not signs of failure. They are signals. Signals that you care. Signals that you're pushing your limits. And most importantly, signals that you have a choice to let them break you or to let them build you. Every great success story is filled with moments of struggle. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't isn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It's the ability to keep going when things get tough. It's about showing up even when you feel discouraged. It's about refusing to let failure define you, and instead using it as fuel to keep improving. Think about this. How many times have you let a single failure convince you that you weren't good enough? How many times have you walked away from something just because it didn't work out the first time? Now, imagine if you had kept going. Imagine if, instead of giving up, you had taken that failure, learned from it, and used it to come back stronger. Where would you be now? Success is not about never falling. It's about getting back up every single time. It's about developing the mindset, the systems, and the resilience to keep moving forward no matter what. Because the truth is, the people who win in life aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who never stop. So, the next time you feel frustrated, remember this moment is not the end. It's just the beginning of your next breakthrough. Now, take that energy, take that lesson, and go after what you want.